here on a momentous end of the month here, last trading day in the month of May.
I mean, I'm going to let Jess put it into perspective, but I'm just going to say for the month, I'm just looking at
not
those.
Now, though, right? You're going to.
In a second.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to set her up. I'm going to tee her up. The major industry groups in the S&P 500, 10 of the 11 are higher. Infotech up about 11% for the month overall, Jess.
All right, and just looking at the size and scope here, S&P not only on pace for its best month since November 2023, but if you look at it, up over 6% this month. So basically, it's about to notch its best gain for May specifically since 1990, holding on to this right at 4 p.m., guys.
Do you know what I said? I asked if she was born back then. I was like...
I definitely was alive in 1990.
You're so seasoned, you know the markets, but I was just curious.
So this raises the question of what happens next. I feel like we've run out of some immediate catalysts. We're waiting for progress on the big, beautiful bill. We are waiting for the Fed, of course, but they're not going to do anything. We're waiting for the jobs report, but it's all going to be fairly incremental. What's the next catalyst?
Well, you have, of course, obviously that big Fed meeting. Don't forget all of these dates when it comes to Trump's tariffs, which I've been trying to catalog all of them, and it's kind of dizzying. And don't forget also, guess what? Congress, or at least the Senate, coming back from vacation and now going to deal with that big, beautiful something.
That'll take a while.
We'll see if they can deal with that. But the market for right now, taking it in stride. Fractional gains and losses across the board on the day. But that really belies what was a relatively strong week and an even stronger month of May. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is going to finish out the day only fractionally higher by, we'll just call it about 0.1%, but it's still sitting on a sizable gain of about 4% for the month of May. The S&P 500 unchanged on the day, but adding about 1% on the week and more than 6% in May. The Nasdaq Composite down 3%, 0.3% on the day, but 10% for the month. The Nasdaq 100 up 0.9%. And as far as your small and mid caps go, we should point out the Russell 2000 fractionally lower on the day, but it did add about 5% in the month of May. The S&P equal weighted index adding about 4% in the month of May, and the mid caps, Carol, adding about 5% in the month of May.
Yeah, pretty significant. All right, folks. And if you look at the S&P 500 in today's session, kind of an even split, some bouncing around in terms of the overall index. But Scarlett, you've got 259 names to the upside, 243 to the downside.
All right, let's take a look at the IMAP and show you how it breaks down in terms of the 11 sectors in the S&P 500. And two groups finishing up by better than 1%. Consumer staples and utilities, those are your classic defensive sectors. It's where investors go to when they seek shelter and seek some stability. Communication services ending with a 0.5% advance. As for the sectors in the red, energy lower by 0.75%. Consumer discretionary and tech also in the red.
All right, a lot of red and green there. Let's get to some individual gainers. Ulta on that list, up more than 16% at its highs today, finishing the day with about a 12% gain. Intraday it was up, I think, the most since 2020. Number one gainer in the S&P 500. The company coming out boosting its full year profit outlook. And it also talked about comp sales were also higher than expected, and talking about the last quarter. And analysts kind of flagging some of the strong execution at the company.
I'm absolutely fascinated by this. I mean, because remember yesterday you had Elf rally like 20-something%, also in the beauty space here.
Yes.
Is this the play?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think when people are feeling a little crunched, they call this kind of a small little spending you can do to kind of get some pleasure. So
something to make you feel good.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily cost a whole lot to do here.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like, but some of this stuff's expensive, so I don't know what a little luxury it is. Costco. Let's also stay in the retail space. This is the number 4 gainer in the Nasdaq 100, folks, up about 3%. Company posted third quarter earnings per share that beat the average analyst estimate. Company talking about navigating some of the tariffs out there and the economic turbulence by flexing its scale and devoted. Following it, it is looking at some potential price changes on its item-by-item basis. So,
Scarlett. Yeah. It was so funny. I was looking at their earnings report, and you look at the growth rate. Did you know that like 6 percentage points of that growth rate was from the Scarlet Fu household?
I believe it.
I buy in bulk for everything.
She does.
Also, Lisa Mateo on the surveillance. She's there, I think, regularly. E-commerce sales were growing about 16%. Hey, one more, Palantir Technologies. This is the number 2 gainer in both the S&P and the Nasdaq 100, guys. It's up almost 8% in today's session. This after the New York Times reported that the Trump administration has expanded the data analysis software companies' work across the federal government in recent months. By the way, Palantir has received more than $113 million in federal government spending since the president took office. This again the New York Times reporting, citing some public records. All right, Jess, over to you.
Moving over and looking at those decliners, as Carol is talking about too. So I'm going to start off with Gap, ticker symbol GAP, because it dropped actually 20%.
Aren't you glad they finally changed their ticker, Jess?
It's actually much easier now, so I appreciate that. And also down, so 20% loss. I mean, this has erased its gains for the year, and also its worst day actually since early April. So that, maybe not surprisingly, unfortunately came as that tariff hit warning that it gave it weakness at its smaller brands, when it's talking about some of those other ones too. Banana Republic is one of them too, but they talked about how it could have an impact as much as $300 million from that tariff impact, and revealed some of that stubborn weakness there. Moving over and looking also at the biggest decliner though in the S&P 500, Regeneron, REGN is the ticker symbol, down 19%, its worst day since April 2011 there. So this actually came after a drug trial missed the mark here, and two late trial drugs here, experimental, specifically when it's going on and not meeting those goals as far as what's happening there. And Sanofi also had as far as when it's looking at its smoker's lung drug trial data, unfortunately coming in not as good as expected. And then wanted to end on contact lens maker Cooper Companies, ticker symbol COO. That actually was the second worst performer in the S&P 500, down almost 15%, worst day since November 2008. That actually came after it cut its outlook for organic growth for the year. And the company, even though it reported better than expected earnings results for the second quarter, but did see a guidance downgrade, and also specifically by JP Morgan, guys. So that's pressuring the shares.
Hey, pop quiz for you, Jess. So Regeneron, second biggest decliner in the S&P 500 in the month of May. What was the number one decliner?
In the S&P 500 for this month? Let's see. I don't know. It surprised me.
United Health.
United Health, of course.
Yeah, of course.
You can use the MOV function and look at it on a monthly basis.
I'll always be selling, Jess.
Yields.
No, that's me. Sorry. I'm always looking for Alex Steele, who's, of course, has a well-deserved day off here. You take a look at the yield picture here. Slight moves lower here on the day, but we talk a lot here about the first big decline that we've seen on a price basis, on a monthly basis, I should say, for the U.S. Treasury market. Of course, we had 3 straight months where we did see a rally, and, of course, that being pushed back a little bit. And, of course, we talk about that inverse correlation. Gene Tenuzo, our guest on TV just a little while, that inverse correlation returning between stocks and bonds, a healthy sign, according to him.
All right. Don't know if there's going to be a song written about this, but big day for Taylor Swift. She has actually bought back her early albums. She has been on a crusade for many, many years, a fight with her former record label, also with music manager Scooter Braun, about the selling many years ago of her songs. And she owns the music. She wrote it, but her songs, the original recordings, were sold, and she's been trying to kind of get them back. She's also been re-recording them.
No, this is a big deal, especially for anyone who's been paying attention to those Taylor versions in recent years here. So big news coming out of this for her.
So my question is, are we still going to have Taylor versions on Spotify and the other streamers?
That's a great question.
What should we listen to?
I don't know. Are they materially different? Somebody who doesn't listen to a lot of Taylor Swift, but I am intrigued by the business of this, right? I mean, we talked a lot when she was doing those re-recordings as to why she even would have to do that. And we all know, of course, with a lot of these record contracts, particularly when these are young artists coming in, they kind of sign their life away and not quite noting it. And we won't get into some of the shenanigans that Scooter Braun is alleged to have pulled in that as well. But the idea that she had the clout and obviously the money to be able to sort of reclaim all of this stuff for herself, I mean, it is a victory not just for her, but you wonder if it might set a precedent for other artists out there as well.
Yeah, that's something Reba McEntire actually had done in the past, and Kelly Clarkson had brought it up, and I think that's what spurred Taylor Swift to doing it.
It's her property. I mean, it's her creative property, right?
I want to know what she spent. I want to know what she spent.
Yeah, I do too.
She didn't share how much she paid to get all the ownership back, but she did say that she now controls all of her life's work. So we're talking about photography, album art, videos, and unreleased songs, in addition to the master recordings.
And she's working on new music as well too. So which I assume she also
2026,
I assume she also
2027.
owns.
Wait.
And I think that it's safe to say that there's some cachet from the original recordings, right? She can re-record them and re-release them, but there's something about, as she was growing in her career, right, to have ownership of that. I think there's a lot of value.
Jess, what's your favorite Taylor Swift song?
Oh my goodness. I feel like I'm going to say album instead. I feel like I do really like the Reputation album in general. I know it was a little bit different than some of her other albums, but then also 1989 I feel like is always a popular one too.
What about you, Scarlett?
I like Love Story. That's my favorite song.
What about you, Romaine?
That one where she cursed a lot on the Midnights thing, that was pretty cool.
I was taking you for a folklore kind of guy, but I guess I was
right. Yeah.
I like Taylor. I like listening to her.
All right, guys, that's a wrap. Maybe we'll listen to some Taylor into the weekend. That is a wrap. Our cross-platform radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Originals. We call it the closing bell. Scarlet and Romaine continuing on TV, and Jess and I right here on Bloomberg Business Week Daily. We'll see you again on Monday.